All right, this is part 2 of our countdown to Halloween with the Peanuts gang. This is the story for October 7th. There's another recording that has the stories for October 1st to October 6th, but like I said then, you could listen to these stories any day. It doesn't need to be October 7th. Practice makes perfect. Rerun was excited about trick-or-treating for the first time. Lucy decided he needed a little practice first. She handed him a brown paper shopping bag. "What's this for?" Rerun asked. "I want you to practice your trick-or-treating skills," Lucy said. "Now pretend we are at someone's front door. What do you do?" "Ring the bell?" Rerun guessed. "Yes." "And then what?" Lucy asked. Rerun wasn't so sure, so he took another guess. "I say, 'Hi, nice weather we've been having lately.'" Lucy groaned. "No, no, no. You just say trick or treat and hold up your treats bag so they give you something." "That's all I say? Trick or treat?" Rerun asked. "It seems a little bit rude." Lucy sighed. "It's okay. It's tradition. It's what people are expecting you to say. You can say thank you after they give you a treat, if you want to be polite. Okay, now let's go." "Go where?" Rerun asked, confused. "Trick-or-treating," Lucy said. Now Rerun was really confused. "But it's not Halloween yet," he said. "I know, silly," Lucy said. "Don't worry. We're just going to one house, and it's just for practice. I want to see how well you do when you have to ring a real doorbell." Lucy brought Rerun to Charlie Brown's house. He rang the doorbell perfectly. Charlie Brown's sister Sally opened the door. "Hi, Sally," Lucy said. "My brother is practicing for Halloween." Sally nodded. "Okay," she said. Rerun gulped. He looked at Lucy, then back at Sally. "I forgot the words," he said. "No treat for you," Sally said. "Come back when you remember them." Then she slammed the door. Lucy looked at her little brother. Then she put her arm around him. "Okay, clearly you need a little more practice," she said. A story for October 8th. The perfect costume. Snoopy and Woodstock were laying on the doghouse thinking about their Halloween costumes. It was only a day away and they didn't have anything ready. Woodstock chirped up with an idea. He flew inside the doghouse and pulled out a sheet. Snoopy shook his head. They were ghosts last year. They couldn't wear the same costume twice. This year, Snoopy was determined to have the spookiest costume of all. He and Woodstock always won the Halloween costume contest. The two friends spent the rest of the afternoon brainstorming ideas for their costumes. They could be pumpkins or mummies or wizards. Snoopy sighed. None of those are scary enough, he thought. Finally, as night fell, they agreed to think about it some more in the morning. Snoopy sat up watching the night sky. Against the full moon, Snoopy saw a bat flying overhead. One of us needs to stay awake in case of vampires, he thought. That's it. Snoopy suddenly had a great costume idea. He snuck around Woodstock, who was sleeping silently, and got to work. First, he went into the round-headed kid's house and pulled out a few pieces of clothing. Then he took the sewing machine over to his doghouse and began creating the perfect Halloween costume, careful not to wake Woodstock in the process. He wanted to surprise his best friend. In the morning, Snoopy waited patiently for Woodstock to wake up. As soon as he did, Snoopy barked, "Happy Halloween!" He was a vampire. Woodstock howled with laughter. He laughed so hard he fell from the doghouse. Woodstock thought Snoopy looked funny, not scary. Snoopy hung his head. Now Halloween is ruined, Snoopy thought. He walked over to the park sadly. Then Woodstock chirped loudly beside him. Snoopy looked up and saw that his friend was wearing his own vampire costume. The two vampires hugged and made the final touches to their costumes and to the doghouse. Halloween wasn't about having the perfect costume. It was about having fun with friends. Snoopy and Woodstock were ready for Halloween. A story for October 9th. Choosing a costume is hard. Charlie Brown and his sister Sally were walking home from school. Sally was a little worried. "What's wrong, Sally?" Charlie Brown asked. "Everyone in my class was talking about Halloween costumes. I haven't thought of anything to wear yet. I'm not sure I like costumes," Sally said. "What? Costumes are the best part of Halloween," Charlie Brown exclaimed. "It's the only time of year you can be anyone or anything. You can dress up as a dragon. You can dress up as a ghost. You can be an astronaut. Anything." "Really?" Sally asked. "I can be anything?" "Yes, I'll help you. Just try on a few different things and I'll let you know if they're a good costume," Charlie Brown said. When they got home, Sally went into her room and thought about what her brother said. Then she started pulling various things out of her closet. She tied a scarf around her head and put on her favorite tie-dyed shirt. Then she stepped out into the hallway to show her brother. Charlie Brown looked at her for a while and then said, "I'm not sure this really says Halloween." Sally went back into her room and put a sheet over her head. She stumbled out of her room. Charlie Brown clapped. "That's perfect," he said happily. But Sally didn't feel perfect. She couldn't see. Plus, she didn't like ghosts, so how was she supposed to act like one for the entire night? Sally went to sleep and kept thinking about what she wanted to be most in the world. In the morning, she knew exactly who that was. She put on her costume and went over to the kitchen for breakfast. Charlie Brown came out in his mumming costume. He looked her up and down and said, "Why aren't you wearing your ghost costume to school? It's Halloween. Who are you supposed to be?" Sally pointed to the S initial on her sweater. "I'm Super Sally," she said. "I thought about what you said, and there's no one I would rather be than me." "Good grief," said Charlie Brown. But then he smiled. He thought Sally's costume was super. A story for October 10th. Lucy surprises Schroeder. Last October, Lucy couldn't wait for Halloween. The only problem was she couldn't decide what her costume should be. "I'm always a witch," Lucy thought. "How boring. Plus, this year I want to dress up as something completely different." "I know what you should be, Lucy," Linus told his sister. "You should dress as the Great Pumpkin." "Don't be ridiculous," Lucy shouted. "I'm not going to dress up as something that doesn't even exist." Schroeder was practicing the piano when Lucy stopped by. "Schroeder," Lucy said, "what should I be for Halloween?" "Sorry, Lucy," Schroeder replied. "I need to practice my new piano piece. It was written by the late, great Ludwig van Beethoven, one of the greatest composers of all time." "No one cares about Halloween but me," Lucy yelled. She left Schroeder's house and went back home to think. "What can I be that will truly be the best costume ever?" Lucy thought. "I want to be something really great." Suddenly, Lucy remembered something Schroeder had said. "Wait a minute. I can dress up as Beethoven. Schroeder said he's one of the greatest composers of all time. That means that I will have one of the greatest costumes of all time." A few days later, it was Halloween. Lucy couldn't wait to show her friends her costume, especially Schroeder. "Who are you supposed to be?" Charlie Brown asked. "Is her costume?" "Are you dressed as my grandma?" Sally asked. Suddenly, Schroeder spotted Lucy from across the room. He rushed to her side. "This is indeed the best costume I've ever seen," he said. "Lucy is dressed as the late, great Ludwig van Beethoven." Schroeder looked happier than Lucy had ever seen him. He had a huge smile on his face. Lucy beamed. She was hoping Schroeder would recognize her very costume. And he did. Her very great costume. And I think this will be our last one for this recording, a story for October 11th. Pigpen surprises Linus. Linus knew everyone thought it was silly for him to believe in the Great Pumpkin, but he knew someday there would be one Halloween when he would finally meet the Great Pumpkin and prove his existence to everyone. But in the meantime, life was hard. He was going to miss out on Halloween parties again. He was going to miss out on trick-or-treating again. Linus's friend Pigpen was over for a visit. He was trying to cheer Linus up. "Why don't you just take a break from the pumpkin patch? Just this once," Pigpen said. "If the Great Pumpkin is as nice as you say he is, I'm sure he'll understand. Halloween only comes once a year, and I'm just saying, maybe you should think about just this once." "No," Linus said, and he covered his ears with his hands. "Stop saying that." Pigpen rushed out of the room. A few minutes later, alone in his room, Linus decided the only thing that would make him feel better would be to write another letter to the Great Pumpkin right away. "Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival. Soon you will arise out of the pumpkin patch and fly through the air. I have tried to be good all year long, and I hope that you will bring me lots of presents." Suddenly, Linus heard someone cough. He turned around, and Pigpen was standing behind him, reading over his shoulder. Linus braced himself, waiting for Pigpen to tease him. But then Pigpen said the most surprising thing Linus had ever heard. "Will you put in a good word for me too, Linus?" Pigpen asked. "I've tried to be good too." Linus broke out in a huge grin. If Pigpen was starting to believe anything was possible, Linus quickly put in a good word for Pigpen and mailed his letter. He couldn't wait for Halloween night. All right, we're going to stop there, but there will be another recording to start with the next story.